So you've gone out, you've got yourself a really nice retro looking camera like this, which looks fantastic. But the trouble is the black lump of plastic they give you looks awful. So if you're looking to add a little bit of style back to your camera, then take a look at these great lenses. Now these lenses are available in both the blacks and the silver and look absolutely fantastic on your camera. Now to start with, these lenses are prime lenses, which means you're not going to be able to zoom in and out like the zoom lens here. It's a fixed focal range of either 25mm f1.8 or the 35mm f1.6. And they're both full manual lenses, which means there's no autofocus and no aperture control. So in order for me to recommend these lenses, they have to be good, and they are. If you compare these lenses to a standard kit zoom lens like this 14 to 45mm here, then you're going to gain a shallower depth of field for a great out of focus blur, a larger f-stop to let more light into the lens for better low light photography, and they still give you great image quality. Now if you're not used to using a manual lens on a modern digital camera, then let's have a look and see exactly how easy it is. Now to attach the lens, you're going to need one of these, which is a C-mount adapter. So this is a C to micro four thirds adapter. Now these lenses work perfectly on a micro four thirds camera due to the smaller sensor size. So you simply attach the adapter to the camera. Once that clicks into place, you simply just screw in the lens. Once attached to the camera, it's all ready to be used. Now to control the focus, you simply turn the focus ring at the end of the lens here. Now to aid manual focus, you can use focus peaking and image magnification, which are great modern day techniques to get that manual focus spot on. Now the aperture control for both lenses is clickless, and it's used by turning this ring here. So this is at f1.6 all the way to f16. So you're going to need to use the camera in either manual mode, or what I would suggest is aperture priority. So the shutter speed is then set for you. Now the reason why I would suggest this is that you can forget all about the exposure and concentrate on getting that focus spot on. So let's compare these lenses side by side to the 14 to 45mm kit zoom lens, and you're going to see exactly how impressive they are. So this chart explains the difference between the Panasonic 14 to 45mm kit lens and the two C-mount lenses, 25mm and 35mm. So first of all, this is the equivalent if you compare it to a traditional 35mm camera and lens setup. So the focal range is doubled. So this 14 to 45 is in reality a 24 to 90mm. Then you've got the C-mount 25mm, which is obviously a 50mm, and then you've got a 35mm, which is turns to 70mm. Now this is useful if you're wondering what you're going to use these lenses for. So a 50mm and a 70mm, for example, is quite useful for portrait use. Now this Panasonic is a 14 to 45 zoom lens, and it's a variable aperture. So that means at 14mm you can open the aperture right up to 4.5, but at 35mm you're at 5.6, and obviously 25mm in between at 4.9. Now on these C-mount lenses, because they're fixed focal ranges, you've got the maximum aperture of f1.8 for 25mm and f1.6 for the 35mm. So stop differences, that means that there's a 3 stops difference between the f1.8 and the f4.9 for the 25mm, and 3.66 stops. Now if you're not too sure what stops means, this next one will be a little bit more relevant. So this 4 times and 6 times is actually how much more light you're going to get from f1.8 to f4.9. So you get 4 times more light if you're using this 25mm lens, and 6 times more light available to you using a 35mm lens if you go down to f1.6 compared to f5.6 like the kit zoom lens. So what that means in ISO terms is that if you were using that kit zoom lens and you're at ISO 1600, so it's going to be a fairly noisy image. If you then change it to a 25mm lens or a 35mm lens, you go down to 200 or 160 ISO. So that's going to be much cleaner images. So these lenses will be great for low light photography. Now they do come with downsides. So as I've already said, you're going to lose the ability to zoom if you compare it to this zoom lens here. So you're going to have a fixed focal range. The autofocus is not going to work, so you're going to sacrifice that, and also the aperture control is not going to be working from the camera itself. So let's now compare these lenses side by side with a 14 to 45mm kit zoom lens. You'll see exactly how impressive they are. So first off, the 35mm versus that 14 to 45. Let's look at these two images here. So the one on the left is shot at f5.6 on that C-mount 35mm lens, and the image on the right here is the kit zoom lens shot at f5.6. That's what the widest aperture you could get at that zoom range. Both are ISO 200 and the exposure is exactly the same because they're both at f5.6. So you can see to start with, but you're actually going to get a little more blur in the background on this C-mount lens. But the actual image quality is what we're interested in, and you're not losing any image quality at all with this lens. In fact, you could argue there's more detail on this C-mount lens than there is on the kit zoom lens in the centre of the image. And one thing I would say is on the corners of the image, then they are a little bit more blurry, but most people, especially when using things like a 70mm equivalent zoom range, then you're going to be using it for sort of portrait use and stuff. So as long as the centre of the image is in focus and got that image quality there and the sharpness is there, then that's the main thing. So, but don't forget, let's just have a quick look at what this lens looks like as you stop down. So you can stop this lens down from that 5.6 to f4, which is this one here, then to f2.8, f2, so it's top right hand corner one, and then the f1.6 here. Now obviously you're going to lose image quality as you do this, but you're going to gain much more light. So the exposure's obviously changed to 1/250th of a second, all the way down to that f1.6. But it's still fairly sharp and a usable image. So let's have a quick look at the 25mm just to compare the differences here. So I've swapped this around now. So the one on the right is a C-mount lens. There's a shot at f5, and the one on the left is shot at f4.9 because it's the kit zoom lens. So at 25mm you can open it up to f4.9. It's a bit of a random aperture, so it's close enough to sort of compare. And actually about 25mm you can see it is definitely sharper. You've got more quality there, more detail. And let's just have a look at the corners. I've got a feeling this 25mm doesn't suffer as much as that 35mm. So yeah, you can see that actually this is still got the quality there. In fact, you can say this is a sharper lens all round. Comparing it directly to 14 to 45 at 25mm. And again, you can go down to different apertures. So you've got f1.8, f2, so top left hand one here is f1.8, then you've got the f2 here on the right hand side, and then you've got f4. All of these are nice and sharp. Even at f1.8 you can see it's a nice sharp image here, and it's still, even in the corners, are still pretty good. You can see that nice blurry background at both f1.8 and f2. So while we're looking at images, let's just have a quick look also at the bokeh differences between these two lenses. So this is the 25mm lens, just to give you a rough idea the difference between the 14 to 45 kit zoom lens here. Now at f4.9, this is the sort of image you're going to get. So this is a real life image now outside, just a very quick shot of a flower, and then the same image, So again, was shot on a tripod. So I just swapped over a lens, and I've now stuck that at f1.8, and you can see how the effect that has on the image, how much blurrier the background is, how much softer it all looks. It is silky smooth, what they call bokeh. And if you really get fussy about the bokeh, you can see these nice donut shaped bokeh balls, whereas on the kit zoom lens you got these sort of almost hexagonal ones. So much softer focus here, but you can still see the quality still here, so you've still got a sharp image even at f1.8, but you just got that lovely shallow depth of field, which makes the rest of the image looks nice and out of focus, but the actual subject itself is pops out of the image because that's the only part of the image that's in focus. So you've got more control of these artistic looks of these images than you would have with that kit zoom lens here on the left hand side. So these lenses are a perfect option for someone looking for an alternative to their kit lens. These lenses are not only affordable and great looking, give you around 3 extra stops of light, meaning you can shoot with lower ISO for cleaner images or darker low light situations and shallower depth of fields. And they still produce obviously great sharp images. So for further details of these lenses, including test shots, please visit www.altphotostore.com.